It's Reiki, but not as you know it.
Hello,
Hello, Linda.
Hello. We're coming in together.
Oh my goodness.
I'd like to say meandering, but no, it had so much purpose. Investigating and exploring this amazing pool.
It wasn't outside the tavern, was it?
No, not that kind of pool.
There's quite a few little pools left
Yeah,
outside the tavern when people
this
leave.
one was quite lovely, a beautiful azure color, smelled fresh and pleasant. And it had
Always a good thing.
lovely soft moss all around the edge that I just had to take my boots off and sink my toes into. It's just quite lovely, quite lovely.
I think I know where you've been.
Yes.
I love moss as well. I love the thought that there are lots of little tardigrades in the moss. And I love tardigrades, water bears. They're just the most delightful creatures.
Just cuddly.
They are. Yes. I do try and cuddle the moss to see if I can sort of cuddle the water bears by proxy, but what's your tipple today?
Cornelia is substituting again at the bar, and she always has something special for me. And today, it's some sort of concoction of twigs and leaves. So it looks not quite the delightful color of browns and mucky greens, but it tastes heavenly.
No tardigrades in it, is there?
No. It's just a very, I don't know. It just makes me feel like I can really be myself. What do you have?
Well, I'm not quite sure. It's sort of a little bit blue and a little bit pink, and it tastes of bubble gum. So I have no idea what it is. I just asked them to surprise me, and they have.
That must have been Cornelia that did that, because only she can whip up things like that.
It changes every time I take a sip.
Yes, that has her signature all over it.
Something sweet and lovely is very, very welcomed, because I've been traveling up and down the Twisted Vine today, and have been enjoying. I say enjoying. Air bunnies to the rescue. I have been enjoying the Twisted Vine, going up and down and up and down. The Twisted Vine can be found in the woodland realm of Celtic Reiki, and is this immense plant that does what it says on the tin, and as much as it's a vine, and it does twist up the trunks of trees from the forest floor to the canopy above.
Yes.
The Twisted Vine represents the emotional experiences of life and how we can use one therapy to create better, emotional well-being, how we can honour our emotional journey better, and instills within us an understanding of how emotions are neither good nor bad, they just serve different purposes. So in terms of what we call emotions, we experience a constant stream of neurochemical interactions within our body that we label as different emotions. So cortisol is the chemical we associate with stress, and dopamine is a rewarding hit of pleasure. Adrenaline gets the heart pounding and can cause us to feel aggressive or agitated, and oxytocin creates feelings of trust and friendship. The way we label these emotional experiences creates a spectrum of emotion, Some we view as desirable emotions, and some not so much. The twisted vine creates an emotional journey through this spectrum where each leaf is a different colour.
uh, a different color, and for me, they feel differently too.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. And I rather like looking at the leaves because I'm never content with just boring colour names. So like green. It's like it's green. No, no, it's viridian. It's emerald. It's
Yeah.
chartreuse. Such a beautiful glow of baby poo. So I love naming the leaves, you know, so there's a puce one and there's an aureolin one, and I just love that anyway. But yes, you're quite right. Every leaf has a different feeling.
It has a different feeling to it for sure. And
Yes.
puce. Oh, that's an interesting color.
I love puce. Not as much
I
as cerise, but
yeah, it's you won't ever see me wearing puce.
does it make you puke? Puce makes me puke.
um it just doesn't complement my skin tone. Let's just say I look different.
One day you might have to do it just to
give you a visual impact.
give me a visual.
Okay.
I tell you what, you wear puce and I'll wear my teddy bear onesie. How about that?
Oh God. I don't know. I'll have to think about that one.
On a neurochemical level, we cannot turn chemicals off like switches. They can be triggered by an experience of some kind, but the experience is an ebb and flow which can come on suddenly but then takes a while to shake off. The vine firstly reminds us that we climb one leaf at a time, and whilst we can fall down the vine quickly, it is better to ascend by focusing on the next leaf up. The vine also reminds us that the associations we have with emotions are not always true, and certainly not true in every context. Feelings of sadness, fear, and anger, they can be very beneficial to us in the appropriate context, whilst joy and love are not always healthy emotions. As we ascend and descend the twisted vine, we carry a backpack full of rocks. The vine reminds us that the discomfort and effort of ascending the vine, leaf by leaf, is counterbalanced by the rocks on our back, and we need to clear the rocks as we go, or their weight becomes unbearable and causes us to fall back down again. So we expend effort in climbing and we invest it in removing the rocks, and honouring emotions, healing emotional traumas, and releasing the sort of prisons of emotional habit. We do this through Reiki modality techniques such as Celtic Reiki or other aspects of one therapy.
It's quite lovely. I've been there. It's just
Many,
beyond.
many,
Yeah,
many, many, many
it's
times.
just beyond the Azure pool, actually. Yes, and I'll visit again.
Yes, so anyway, up the twisted vine we go. The lovely thing about these leaves, these different colour, different feeling leaves, is that every leaf is representative of a different emotional experience.
Right.
And the leaves sort of down closer to the forest floor tend to be these emotions which are very contractive for us. So, for example, the emotional experience of shame and that deep level shame, particularly if you've had childhood trauma, if there have been relationships in your childhood that have been really detrimental to your developmental process,
Right.
and have in that relationship caused you to feel a deep sense of shame about yourself. And so those lower leaves very much represent those sorts of emotions, going through to things like blame, where you blame other people, and sort of have a tendency that if something is awry, immediately the response is to blame and to look to somebody else for the accusation. And as we go up these leaves, the emotional experiences change, and with each leaf we can assign a different emotional experience through elements such as fear and desire and anger. By the time we're sort of getting up towards the canopy there, these emotional experiences are much more expansive. The emotions that we tend to associate with feeling good,
lighter,
or the ones, lighter, the ones we tend to aspire to, and particularly sort of in terms of society, the ones that are held up as the aspirational emotions, such as joy and happiness, and love, and bliss, and compassion. That's another really good example. There is this real sense in terms of compassion that people see it as being loving and kind and soft and gentle. And a lot of the really enabling behaviors that people have are done under the guise of compassion.
Yes, correct. That's exactly. Yeah. That's not compassion.
No, compassion is this fearsome force. It is so dynamic and active.
Right.
And the results are supportive. They help people to grow and to be their best selves. But that doesn't come from comfort. Nobody ever really created transformation in the world through comfort.
No.
That's not compassion.
Let me make everything better. Let me make sure that you don't want for anything.
Yeah.
Let me make sure that I coddle you into this mush who can't fight their way out of a paper bag when the slightest conflict comes along. And again, I know that sounds harsh, but people, come on.
Exactly.
You are being led, and this is harsh, but you are being led down the path of slaughter.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And we, as human beings, we seek comfort. We seek that nice, warm, comforting place where we can just be, and we don't have to do. We can just be
Don't
for
have
a while.
to do anything.
To do anything. And the challenge with that is, whilst we all need times where we can just be, when it becomes an addiction, and so we are constantly seeking comfort over anything else, the act of saying to someone in that state, oh, they're there, it'll get better, and how can I make everything all right for you and make things more comfortable for you, that is just enabling. That is not
I know,
helping that person to get into discomfort and to actually achieve more of themselves and in their lives. An emotion I often feel that motivates me is frustration. And when I experience Reiki modality weekenders shouting down others about how Reiki is hand positions or symbols, or how they possess the one truth of what Reiki is, all the while confusing Reiki, the mysterious atmosphere, with Reiki, a healing modality, usually Asui Reiki. Now, Asui Reiki is where I began my journey, and where many people started theirs. It's a very profound and valuable modality, but unfortunately, along with its popularity in the West, it's become full of dogma, of ego, of historical revision, and a few rather loud people who feel it's more important to be air bunny than offering value to others. That's not legacy building. It's diminishing of oneself and others. For me, we all come into this world with a sacred purpose, and we grow and develop, we form a sacred space.
Because I'm dabbling back in Facebook a little bit, I'm just seeing certain groups that are rebellious, but not in, my right to do this, that, or the other. Rebellious in putting their stake in the ground, and there's lots of affirmations that I find appealing with regard to honoring your sacredness, with regard to being compassionate towards yourself and forgiving to yourself. And yet the flip side of that coin are the other people that I see that are so rah, 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 this is my right.
Yeah.
That doesn't fly well with me at all.
No, definitely. I get really focused on muddy footprints, because when you are creating a sacred space, whether that be your home or whether that be the realms, for example,
Yeah.
people will come along on their own trajectory with their own momentum from everything that the world has brought with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that momentum is so fierce that they will enter into this new environment, this sacred space, with their muddy boots on and just trample all of that stuff all over this lovely sacred space that you've created.
Right.
And that behavior and that momentum has to be diverted into another way of actually enjoying this sacred space, because it's not until you get the sacredness of that space and that you partake in that sacredness that you can actually change direction and sort of begin to grow.
Otherwise, you're violating that space, place, individuals, the full picture. You're violating, you step over into that space without respect
Yeah.
and without honoring it.
The idea of entering someone's home with your muddy boots on and sort of bringing it all into the home, this idea of just doing whatever you want in the sacred spaces of others, has become enabled by society in as much as this is my right. This is my, and in the States you would have my constitutional right. Here it is my, my human right
Right.
to be who I am and to do what I want.
No one's going to tell me what I can or can't do, or, the nonsense that percolates up, regardless of what impact it has on someone else.
Exactly, yeah. And that nurturing of sacred space has become so diminished by that.
They're in the muffle. You can see they're trying to rise, but when you have the majority of those other groups, other people, just spewing buckets of pus,
Absolutely, yeah.
you're gonna
Yeah,
duck. You're
yeah,
not. You're gonna be like, I don't want this.
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Back to the community. That this is my drive to remind One Therapy people, you've got this, and give them examples. My way is not for everyone. I understand that, but just as you're scripting and recording it so the people that you're working with can hear it and get that spark for themselves, that's kind of how I view what I do. Put your cloaking device on and go do your thing.
Nurture your sacred space.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is the nature of sacred space, is that we
Yes.
don't have to be all loud and bolshy in the world and
No.
tell people, we can be here in our sacredness and
Yep.
in our space and nurture difference and change in the world. We
Yes.
can reach out to the darkest places of people who feel alone and desperate and unsure of how to go forward. We can reach out to them. It's very worrying to me, another feeling on the vine, um, that so many people have started using the term protecting children, when what they mean, what their intention is to control children, to indoctrinate them into being carbon copy clones of the person using the term protecting
It's
children.
control.
Absolutely.
There's a big difference, but
Yeah.
they see it. It's kind of like enabling and compassion. for some reason, the definition of words have become so skewed in like, how did that happen? And then I think it's been around forever.
The worry leaf on the vine inspires us to experience Reiki in ways that motivate us towards change, to speak out or work through the polarization that's causing that worry. Here we work with the Reiki experience to stabilize and balance. Reiki is the key of balance, and by meeting that polarization with compassion, we create this balancing effect where it's no longer as polarized or extreme. The words control and protect have become interchangeable in modern society, something I've seen a lot of used by a very few number of psychic mediums in the community. There are a lot of amazing mediums, but there are those who don't play nice. These individuals will use the word protection as a control mechanism to terrify people into compliance. When it comes to children, there are a number of extremely vocal people in the world who have adopted the protect and control manipulation in the same way. So we could talk about the prohibiting of queer books in Florida as an example, but this transcends so many areas of personal expression for children, where people seek to control or have ownership over another, albeit a smaller human being. The challenge is children will seek their own truth, regardless of how air bunny protected air bunny they are. There's a whole lot of Rabbit Warren motif going on today. I think it might be symbolic, perhaps, of certain people in positions of service or power, as they like to call it, sticking their faces up their own backsides and swallowing their own crap for a second go round. When children are not allowed a carefully curated environment to explore their own truth, in a safe family environment or nurturing classroom, they will seek it out for themselves. And that's where they go looking in the adult world. And there, things can be really dangerous and they are often at risk. So the offering of a sacred space through books and knowledge and a benevolent caregiver is being denied to so many, all in the name of protecting them. And that's not protecting. It is controlling. It's implicitly saying, you will be safe if you do what I tell you to do, out of the mouths of psychics and politicians alike.
And the choices you make, thinking about the prohibiting of books, which I'm assuming is what part of what you're talking about in Florida.
Yes.
As you know, my daughter-in-law is a teacher, and it makes her crazy. It's like, are you kidding me? Hello? And she's high school. So she sees that full force of young adults trying to find themselves. Not going off on that tangent. Okay, we have all these warped definitions. Well, why can't a parent be the rebel? You know what? They want to control, not protect. They want to, meaning the administration wants to control what can or can't be. That's so makes me cringe. Then guess what? That just should force parents to be parents again.
Yes.
So many parents are not parents because they just give it off to the school system, or they give it off to daycare, or they give it off to someone else. They're not owning the responsibility. As a parent, there were a lot of things that my kids were exposed to in the school system. They went to public school systems, but in high school, they went to a Catholic college prep because it was a better academic structure, not because we were Catholic. And I remember fighting, not hissing and spitting, but fighting against what the administration was doing. They would dictate, well, this is how the curriculum was going to be. My kids did not do that. I made them aware of what it was, so they were educated in knowing what they were up against, but I would never make them do or follow whatever they were assigned to do for a grade. I would just send a note to the teacher and saying, we don't participate in this, whatever the reason was. I didn't ask for concession or, let my kid off the hook. My child will do this instead. Please honor it as appropriate credit. Parents don't do that. And I'm not patting myself on the back. It's just I've been a rebel since I came out of the womb, I'm sure. These things that are out there that are so disruptive and so disgusting should force people to say, I'm not going to do that. What's happened to the individual's power? You believe in freedom of choice. Well, why don't you use it in a way that is going to benefit not only yourself, but hopefully someone else? In seeing your representation of freedom, seeing your representation of rights, it makes me crazy.
I feel I'm being a smidge political today, but I see Reiki modalities, the Twisted Vine, Celtic Reiki 1 therapy, as real world endeavours. For me personally and professionally, the Reiki experience is not hand positions or symbols, but powering real world value. It's about being of service to others in very real, very physical world and very tangible ways. If we are not being political, tackling hate and the complexities of life, if we're not dealing with trauma and going where others don't want to go because of fear or worry or blame, we are not being true to ourselves and our own sacred spaces as one therapists and Reiki modality practitioners. That's what Reiki means to me. That's what the one fleeting moment of sparkle in the sunlight is all about.
I firmly connect with the ethos of PsyQ in the context of the whole psychic medium community, where there is this sense of protection, and how in the psychic community the word protection is used to control.
Yes.
It is oppressive, it is possessive, and it is used to undermine the confidence and personal autonomy of other people. And so in PsyQ, we come away from the word protection and we use assertion, because protection conjures these images of a world that is
evil
desolate
and good. It's really basic dogma crap. I'm sorry.
Absolutely, yeah. And the idea of this world as being frightening and dark and scary, and you need to protect yourself from it. We protect ourselves from things that are bigger than us. We assert ourselves from things that are equal or less than us. So when you assert, you are literally demonstrating your personal autonomy and your own personal power, your sacredness.
Right.
And what I find absolutely fascinating is that this idea of assertion over protection, when applied to other contexts, is equally as valid. So when we understand, this idea of protecting children from this horrible world that exists, that's going to convert them to some terrible, terrible thing, whatever that may be, when we flip that into helping the child assert themselves and who they are, who they were born to be, and all of the wonderful nuances that they are and their internal landscape, that to me is really empowering. This idea of every child asserting themselves and asserting their place within the world.
I remember that was one of the first little training things I did with Celtic Reiki. Pretty much anyone who would listen to me. because it's such a saturated behavior. Protect, you must protect, you must protect. And the crap that I used to hear about, and I mean no disrespect to Sui Reiki in its original, yet I had so many people saying to me, well, how can Celtic Reiki be Reiki? And in a Sui Reiki, you know how to protect yourself, right? And I'm like, oh Jesus.
It is that fundamental misunderstanding of how assertion, as a human being, as an individual, assertion is so much more powerful than protection.
Oh goodness, yes.
And the way in which it positions your mindset from asserting, in front of some thing that is equal to me or less than me. So I am asserting against that, as opposed to protecting myself from something that is bigger than me. The psychological footing that gives you in terms of assertion
There's
is just
no question.
immense.
No
Yeah.
question. I used to use the example of, when you protect yourself, what do? You come down. You come down and you shield yourself and you get small.
Yeah,
Who wants
exactly.
to do that? You're going to get drop kicked.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
just an easier target.
and people who protect very often, I heard this a lot in the psychic medium community, this idea of protecting with a cloak. Put your cloak around you, you're cloaking. And I just think, well, in terms of psychological imagery, and the empowerment from that, anyone can take a cloak off you. They can just rip it off. It's a thin layer.
Yeah.
Whereas I always use this terminology of actually it coming from within. So you would assert yourself right from your very core as as a human being,
Yep.
and you would basically bring that out as this sphere of assertion around you, because no one can take that away from you. It is who you are. It's essentially your core function, and someone can't come along and just take that off like a piece of clothing.
Nope.
It is you.
Yep.
But when I think back to that, the things that I heard, sort of coming out the mouths of psychic mediums in terms of the events, an entity or a ghost will follow you home, and so you need to protect yourself. And I'd see people traumatized, like there on the spot, traumatized, terrified of what was going to be following them home.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of treating what is beyond the physical world as a duplicate of the physical world is beyond me. There's this idea of the way that we maneuver and navigate the physical world being just exactly the same.
Yeah.
In any form of energetical vibrational world is just what? Seriously?
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, we die, we go to heaven, we get a job, we get married, we have kids. It's like, what? It's like, they're very happy, they've got a fantastic job. Seriously? So you mean that after we die we just do exactly the same but in heaven? Seriously? And that idea of just replicating the physical world and what we know as part of the physical world into what is beyond.
It's crippling. It's
Yeah.
so crippling.
And I think this is why I've made it my life mission to actually take the experience of beyond the physical world and apply it to the physical world.
Right.
Because when you're doing that, it gives you a whole new blueprint to how to navigate this.
Absolutely.
And very often you see the things that nobody else sees. You're literally able to look out into the world and go, this is, why are other people not seeing what I'm seeing?
And you know what? It's just making me think. I'm totally with you there. Having that bubble constantly pushing that edge so that you can see a little bit beyond, obviously gives us a much broader scope. And does help us navigate accordingly. Sometimes with a little confusion, sometimes a little bumps because it's not something we know, but we get acclimated to it.
I just find it utterly phenomenal that when we think about this idea of our bubble being sort of pushed and asserted to the absolute boundaries of our experience, and then going a little bit beyond so that we can begin to learn that as the bubble gets bigger, the surface area gets bigger. So not only are you exploring completely new things, you're also contacting those things over a much wider surface area, and that involves a huge expansion of consciousness and awareness, because you've got to match that to be consciously aware of it, to understand it in any real depth. That takes real commitment, it takes time, it takes a huge investment of breath to evolve your psyche, your consciousness, to match slightly beyond. When we think about how people are so addicted to comfort, to the point where plexi, and the idea of V-plexi, which to you and I and the plexi that we're currently working with, the fact that that is so natural to us, and even to blur the lines of us, and yet how many people are like, what are these two on? If that sort of fairly simple experience is so challenging, I don't see a lot of people doing the work that's involved in actually matching the slightly beyond with their conscious awareness. People will shut that shit down, basically. No, not doing that. What's on telly tonight?
And yet people will. This is something I just recently. I have this weird habit of, when I hear buzzwords, I always look them up, and I like to find out, what's the word origin? Where did this really come from? What is it derived from? I'm kind of geeky like that. Not like you, but geeky to
it's terminal with me, but
but I recently I'm hearing meta. Everything's meta, and I'm like, okay, this is a new buzzword. I know what it means. Do people know what it means? Because people are using it so freely. Facebook and this and that, and of course that's what triggered me to, like, okay, what does this really mean? And are they using it in context to what it really means? And of course it's not. And this morning I because I heard it again, and I'm like, okay, what are you trying to show me? What do I need to know about this? And it was a simple definition of enlightenment. Meta and enlightenment. And I thought, well, that's not happening. I mean, I don't even know if it's clouded someone's thought process can be. They get so sucked into catching the flow of contractiveness.
Yes, yeah. The thing with life is no one gets out alive, and we're all in it together. And I think this is the sense of togetherness and community, that when we understand that the people around us are with us on this journey, and we all are playing parts in each other's experience of life, and by coming together and looking out for each other, showing genuine compassion to each other, we become strong, and we can face life together, and share unexpected moments in their sort of plethora, because of that togetherness. Whereas what is actually happening in society and the world is we are becoming disparate. We are told to mistrust others, to disconnect from them, to see them as something that needs protecting from, and the protection of our children from. And the challenge with that is we are in this together. And if we're all fighting each other and seeing each other as the enemy,
It's not going to work. It's not going to
work. No.
Oh my goodness, look who it is. the lovely Anke Colson, Celtic Reiki Realm Master and one therapist. Anke, come over and join us.
Yes, it's a delight. I love seeing you, Anke, when we meet, but having you here is even more special to me because you get to have a look-see what Martyn and I do when we chat along. Frog in my throat.
And all the weird and wonderful tipples we drink.
Yes.
They're very notorious. I've heard about those tipples, so I could not refuse them. When I heard that you, when I got your invitation, I could not resist. Take a look in this beautiful inn, and I'm very happy to be here with you, Linda and Martyn. So thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure on our end as well, most definitely. So I'm curious, did you get a special tipple today?
I love everything with fruit, with berries. So I've ordered something with raspberry, and normally it's supposed to be pinkish, but I got something quite different. So I'm not really sure what it is, but I'm going to find out.
So what color is it?
It's beautiful orange.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
It's a happy
interesting.
drink, so I'm curious.
There's a lot of orange drinks that happen in this tavern.
Yes, that's what popped into my head is like, wow, orange. That's not your color normally, but
Yeah, it's
surprise. But
It's an orange day today.
yeah, but things transform once you step into this tavern. Things that you thought you knew aren't always what is.
Absolutely. And when you drink the orange drinks, as Linda so often does, you end up getting very flushed by the time you... We won't talk about that.
Well, thanks for the heads up.
You're very welcome. So Anke, you have been exploring the realms for years. I mean, Linda and I have been here for, what was it, 150 years?
150 years we figured out. Yeah.
But you've been here a very, very long time too. Tell us about your experiences in the realms. How did you find the realms when you first started this adventure?
So when I first started the adventure, and I remember the first realm I encountered was the realm of meadows. It was a really wonderful, wonderful, adventurous time. Yeah, it was exactly what I needed it at that point, because I'm a very sensitive soul, and had, as many sensitive souls do, I had some encounters that are pretty harsh, or had some words with people, and sometimes they stick, and you lose a little of your magic sparkle, and I needed to find a way to help me deal with that on another whole other level. So for me, the realm of meadows was just what I needed. It's a very magical place. For those who haven't been there, write it on your calendar to go there for a holiday. It's a magical realm where you can where there's a lot of flowers, apothecaries, a friendly witch lives there. So that's that will be enough for today about it. You get the idea.
Yeah.
And it's a very enchanting, and it's a very happy place. For me, it was a place to really heal my happy inner child, and just anchor it in, and make sure that I could face the challenges day to day differently. And as a therapist, I only work with very sensitive souls. And I hear the stories all the time about how can I deal with a world it's pretty harsh and people can be very mean, and how do I keep myself happy, and how can I stay kind and friendly and be sensitive in such a world. For me, the realms have given me anchors to really help me to ground that in myself, and now I can help others or point out areas to go so they can find their own anchors and tools. So that was really at the beginning. And of course, when you're in the realm of meadows, there's a beautiful forest, and it's all those pretty trees. You can't resist to go further, and then it's from one adventure to another, to another, to another.
Just go.
So yeah, you keep going, and it's a really it's a wonderful place to go.
There's something you said there about the realm of meadows that's so true, I think, for so many people, is it is that place of the exhale where you just get there and you're like, and you can just be and relax, because the world can be so jangly and harsh and cruel at times. And particularly if you are very sensitive and empathic to the world and to the needs of others, it can really drain and create this sort of sense of wanting to shy away or hide away. And when you get to the realm of meadows, there is that sort of sense of just allowing that to slip away and just to be for a little while, and just to enjoy the sunshine and the flowers and the weird and wonderful things that you can experience there.
Weird and wonderful.
I love the Book of Spills. I keep going back to the Book of Spills. I'm very clumsy and I do like spilling stuff down myself. So it has a real resonance with me, the Book of Spills.
I always wondered.
Now we know.
Oh my goodness. I think what I loved hearing you describe to heal the childlike self, your child soul. And when you step into the realms, you feel the safety of that place as well. It's weird and wonderful, but also you feel able to look within and be able to almost filter out what you need to be able to step forward. And there's so many nooks and crannies within the realm of meadows that you can explore, like with a childlike mindset, because you're not afraid of what you're going to uncover, because it's curious and it's magical and it's, ooh, what's here? What's over here? What's under this rock? So it's an exploration of rediscovering yourself. And we all need that.
It's like the button oracle, opening those drawers and seeing these little tiny everyday things that have significance or meaning to us. And it's how those little moments in life can really have an enormous impact upon us. And what you were saying there, Anke, about how certain words stick and how sometimes people say things to us and years later we have that really clearly sort of there, almost like a mantra in our heads. And this idea of sort of the innocuous or the simple or the tiny can have such an enormous impact, whether that be a word that diminishes us or whether that be a simple act of kindness that can really change the world. It is extraordinary how we can find so much meaning in these tiny little things.
It's quite lovely. It's lots of fun and it's lots of work, but it's quite beautiful.
I think for me, the realms, because I've been around also in other worlds, I think the attraction with the realms, or what the realms made special, is that it brings so much color. It's like a burst of color, and it's for me it was maybe not what I expected, because when searching for yourself, sometimes you first go into the blackness and the depth and everything, and then the heaviness. And here in the realms, it's like you're not in a great place maybe when you enter. Yeah, so you go to the realms because you feel you need something different, or you bump into something in your life and you say, oh, I don't want this, or I want something different. And it's like you're welcomed in with such warmth and colors, and it's like, oh wow. So you're like welcomed into a sort of party or it's like a treat. So you're like, oh, you can heal a bit and be happy and joyful before you go into the depths. And I think that's such a new approach, and really wonderful. So that did it for me. And I still remember the first time going to the apothecary with all the beautiful bottles and all those colors. It's a magical place. And every time that you need some color, you can go there, recharge, and then go on your way, and you're more prepared, or you're more strengthened, and you're more capable of dealing with the things that lie ahead. For me, it's and also for others, it helps to be a bit strengthened before you go into those depths, and then you have more chance of succeeding and just holding on.
There are a lot of places in the realms that are this lovely childlike times to play and relax and recuperate. There's also a lot of darker stuff within the realms, which I know, Linda, you really resonate with, and Anke, it would be great to get your experiences with those. Places like the Fell Witch, for example, and experiencing the aftermath of past traumas and hurts, abuse from the past. Places like Thicket Hollow, the sense of feeling completely lost in the world and not being able to find your way. And the things that people tell us often hinder us from finding our way out of the labyrinth. They just keep us trapped. Or even places like Alvin Whispers, which is this monument to the lost, the things that were that are no longer, and the grief that comes from that. Anke, how have you experienced these darker elements of the realms, and how have they helped you experience the healing of trauma?
Yes, there are a few places in the realms that are really sort of confronting you with. For me, it was the Bridge of Seven Tears. It was a very confronting place for me because it resonates very, very deep, and then it's good to look at the place and see, okay, where am I here, and why is it it's resonating so deep with me. Because in the realms you just go from one place into another, and some places they you don't know why, but they struck something inside of you. And the Bridge of Seven Tears did that for me, because I found out that a lot of my emotions that I had when I encountered a very deep trauma, that it was layered. There are all kinds of layers that we put above. So there's a very deep emotion. You get struck, you come across something, and then there's it evokes an emotion. And my impulse was to layer it with other things, with a construct, with a thought, like that you have to be strong. So don't cry, or there are people that have it worse. So don't complain. And so there are lots of tears, and there are some stereotypical, like, so you're a woman, so it's like that's motherhood is about it's suffering, so stick with it, or something like that. So all those things, we have emotions, and why do they stick? It's because there are so many layers above them, or we layer it, or we cover it. And for me, that was like an eye opener, like, oh wow, that's a big one. So if I want these emotions to flow, or to I want to transform my emotion that is at the bottom, I need to shed all the tears. It had a deep impact on me. The Fell Witch was I think for everybody it will be it's a very deep place. It's about when life brings you to your knees and you really want to forget certain trauma, and you say that to yourself, like, oh, I don't want to remember, I just want to forget. So take it away, you just say that. And that's about the Fell Witch. It helps you remember all these things that you tucked away. Oh, there's so many places. The deep ocean, the oceanic. That's a very deep one. It's when you talk about going to the bottom of the emotions, it's in the oceanic that you can really go deep.
I love your perspective on the Bridge of the Seven Tears, Anke, and this idea of conventions that we all are constrained to, and the labels and dogma and memes that are associated with each box, that when we encounter trauma, suddenly there are all of these phrases and things that we tell ourselves that come to the forefront because of those conventions, and we create these layers of stuff that basically encases the trauma within and keeps it there, keeps it imprisoned within us, affecting us in every moment. But we don't see it anymore. We've forgotten it because of all of these things that we tell ourselves, things that come from the world around us.
So shedding the tears is a play on words. We shed actual teardrops, but the tears need to be pulled away. The tears have to be leveled in some respect or another, or acknowledged. A lot of times it's just acknowledgement of, yes, that was traumatic, or yes, that hurt. And it's through that acknowledgement and being able, especially being on a bridge, there's only one way. But it's a gentle force of helping you step forward and be able to look at something head on and say, okay, what is this to me? How does it impact me? And does it serve me any good now? And what can I do to keep crossing, to keep moving forward? The Bridge of Tears does that. And I'm curious, do you go back and visit?
And I have books full of notes. Yes, you have like a section of Bridge of Tears, and it's like, oh, okay, that's the one. And you know it, but still, when you encounter something that you say like, oh, you're confused and like, what do I have to do with this? Yes, go back. And then it's like, oh wow. I knew I had to remember that. It's somewhere.
This is why journaling is so wonderful.
And it's important because you keep forgetting stuff. And it's also, I say it to my clients all the time, write it down. You will forget, write it down. And I love the tools in the realms. And it's good to know where they are, because I found with working with my clients, when there's a sort of structure and they know, like, okay, so here I am. So it's like you hear the story of your client, and then you say, oh, but hearing your story, that's where you are, and you want to go here. And so you can pinpoint, like, this is the emotion that you're feeling, you want to go there, okay, let's try this. And it helps, it really helps to have a sort of structure. And then the emotions can be very big and very overpowering, and they just keep expanding and expanding. And sometimes also for me and for my clients, it's like they're like one big giant bomb of emotion sitting there, and like can't think, and it's overpowering. And so it's just expanding, and by giving it a structure, you kind of limit the emotion. So it's like what you're experiencing, it's this, so it shrinks down. All the anger or the sadness, it shrinks down to, okay, it's an emotion, and you can work with that. And then it's you can find creative ways of doing that, because everybody has deals with emotions on another level, but it's about bringing them down to a level that you can handle. And I feel the realms too, that they give you sort of place where you can go, and it's like you can the emotions come down to a scale that you can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
very good. That's a very good description. You're also referring to a lot of what's sparking in my mind of the twisted vine.
It's just
and the rucksack with stones that get a little overwhelming, but when you can manage and recognize what no longer serves you or what you need to keep, you can chuck it, or keep it aside and build from there and continue to climb the twisted vine. That was very well said.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
With the twisted vine and the experience of different emotions, there is often this need of others to see us flip switches within ourselves and not experience certain emotions, which is understandable. With things like sadness, you don't want to see other people sad. You certainly don't want to see them angry and become violent. So there is a real move towards flipping switches and not experiencing emotions. Us Brits are well known for stiff upper lip and not showing emotion and repressing things, which I think is quite detrimental in the long run. But every emotion that we experience needs to be seen and then directed into a purpose that has valuable intent. Suppressing emotion just makes things worse. For example, suppressed anger very often it comes out as depression. So I was wondering, in terms of the emotional experiences on the Twisted Vine, what have you experienced? What are your experiences of the vine?
When you climb the Twisted Vine, and when you have climbed the Twisted Vine time and time and time again, so there's a sort of map, or sort of you know that it will be in the end, it will be all right. It's not that hopeless or something. So it's when you're at the bottom, and you don't know that there's a stair. So when you're in the dark, and you don't know that there is a stair, or at the bottom of a tree, and you only see the trunk and you don't see the leaves, you don't know that there are leaves and there's sunlight. Mm-hmm. And when you've climbed the Twisted Vine the first time, and like, oh wow, here on the top there are leaves and there's sunlight, so that's the place that you want to go. And it helps, because when you're back down, it will be okay, and I can get there. So I've been in the depths a few times. I think a very horrible time for me, and I didn't expect to fall so deep, was when I had a miscarriage. It was a very awful time for me, and was in the dark at the bottom for a few days, and it's like climbing very it was not that like, okay, we're gonna climb and we're on top of it, but when you go so deep, it was good to feel every step. So really experience the hopelessness and like, oh my God, this is life is so bad, and just really go in there, and then like, okay, how can I, what is there to be grateful? But you can't do that, so it's like, where can I be angry at? and you just get angry, but it's good to be angry, so you feel it's all those emotions come back up. And the emotions, they also have something good, because you feel that you're alive, you're living. It does things to your body, and it catapults things up, and then you say, okay, I'm angry, but what do I want? So, and you just climb back up, and it's the focus on what you want in your heart that helps you to get up there. And so it's very important. For me, it was very important to really stay close to myself and to really feel like, okay, what do I need? When you're in the depths, I think the only important question is, what do I really need? What feeds me? And sometimes it's good to be at the bottom, because that says that you don't really know what keeps you up there. So what do you really need? What feeds you? And how can you have it more consistently in your life? So you learn a lot from being at the bottom. And then when you find what truly feeds you, and what your heart wants, the next time you fall, it won't be that deep, or that's my experience. Or when you fall deep, you know the way. You know, okay, I'm in the dark. There's the steps, and you just take them. And I also see it with my clients when they have had a very hard time, and it's the first time they meet me, so I have to explain, and really help them through, and point out like, okay, here are you now, and you will encounter a few emotions before we get there. But during that, we will going to focus on you, not on the problem, and just see what you really want and what you care for, what's in your heart, who are you, in the core sense. And then when they have done their 6 months or 8 months, and I see them a few years, and they come back, they say, oh well, everything went well until that, but I remembered, and they have done a few steps, and so far that they say, oh, now I need a little help. But they remember their notes, they remember their map. So it's the I think the Twisted Vine is a bit of a lifesaver. Once you've got the steps and you know how to use it, you won't fall as deep. And it's a wonderful tool, and it will help you through very tough times. So it's like a go-to with big emotions. Go to the Twisted Vine and see where you're at, and just know that it will be okay. And, it's a lifesaver.
Again, another beautiful explanation of the Twisted Vine.
Hearing you reflect, Anke, on your experiences really cemented for me the relationship between emotion and personality, who we understand ourselves to be. And so, for example, if we're looking right at the very base of the Twisted Vine, down in sort of shame and depression, there comes a point in the experience of shame where we disconnect And people think of depression as being sad. They think, oh, that's just sadness, so be happy. Depression is not oneself. You no longer feel or experience the world like you or the person that you know. It's like a complete disconnect from emotion and personality and who you think you are, to the point where it is about being lost and not being able to find your way. And this is the thing that is so clear, sort of ringing through in your description, is that feeling those emotions is getting back to you feeling something and feeling an emotion and holding and owning that emotion as your own. And that, to me, is just so powerful, because being in sort of the darkness and being depressed is not sadness. It's not being a bit down. It is a complete disconnect and shattering of who we are fundamentally. And that experience of ownership and owning one's emotions every step of the way, step by step, leaf by leaf, owning and taking ownership again of those emotions and allowing ourselves, giving ourselves permission to feel, truly feel, whatever that feeling may be, is something which is completely dismissed by external onlookers when they're sort of watching and going, well, why are you like that? Just get up and do the washing up and then you'll feel much better. No, I don't think so. Yeah, it's extraordinary. Thank you for sharing that, Anke.
As I was kind of reliving your experiences, Anke, because we've obviously shared a lot of our own personal journey, and it just made me think about how each emotion is of value and not to be discarded until you've learned how to work with it to an advantage. When you think about anger, people are like, ooh, that's bad. But not when it gets turned into passion. Not when it's the fuel to drive you forward. And I think it's like triggering when you're in a depressed state, you're detached. So the emotions that are allowed to surface, it kind of jumpstart you into that motion of, okay, I feel. It kind of doesn't matter what you feel to start with. Don't put labels around it being good or bad, or just suck it up. I have a terrible expression that I say, just pull up your bootstraps and move on. That's me conditioning me, and unfortunately I do say it a lot, but it's a coping. We all have weird and wonderful coping mechanisms, and the Twisted Vine helps us recognize the values we have within, and that's what propels us up. I'm not saying we don't sometimes step down, but it's, to your point, Anke, once you know, okay, this is the way I need to go, and you go, and even though you may slip down a couple of steps, the map is there.
Yeah.
Even if it's foggy, even if it's dark, even if it's like, I'm not really sure, you still know which direction to go, which is wonderful. It's a gift that keeps giving.
Yeah, and discovered over the past year that the Twisted Vine, you can also use it to align. So it's not just a sort of map to guide you through emotions and to help you as a tool, but it's also you can align to certain areas if you wish, like joy or hope or something, or passion. And the aligning, it's when there's an intent. And so you wake up in the morning and maybe you didn't sleep well, or your toddler is next to you having a bad day, or just a wonderful day and you're not feeling it. Could be all but so you wake up in the morning, and then it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to align with something of your choice? So what will the day be? or are you just going to see what life throws at you, and are you going to align to that? Because the moment that you wake up and you open your eyes, there's so much emotions around you when you live in a full house, and also when you're alone, because you turn on the radio, or you read something, and the emotions will keep popping up, and which emotion will you choose? What are you going to align to? So the twisted vine can be a bit of you can look at there and see like, okay, what do I want to align with? And it's a very powerful to do that in the morning. And I've been really practicing that. And it has such an impact on your day. It's a very small thing, so you don't have to meditate for 15 minutes or do yoga things. Oh my God, or do a forest walk of an hour and chant or something. Just think of an emotion of twisted vine. What are you going to align to, and do it? And it makes such a difference. And I think that's also the when you have done the journey, it's like, how can I stay more in the upper realms to affect my the family that you live in, or your workspace. When you entrain, when you empower yourself and you feed yourself with a good align yourself with an emotion that's like joy or hope, or a beautiful emotion, you can, it shines out or something, and people notice that, and they can entrain to that. Otherwise, if you just let, let's say I'm going to see what life throws at me, and people are very angry or very mean, chances are that you will entrain to that. So so it's all a bit about choices. The twisted vine, like what leaf are you going to pick? What's so and that's a whole new discovery of the same place. And I think that's also the joy of the realms, when staying there for a long time. When you go out and you always discover something new. So that's the wonderful thing. So it's very if you haven't been in the realms for a while, go back and discover something new.
Something that struck me there as you were speaking, Anke, which I think is so profound, is this sense of ownership of emotions. And you talked about aligning with emotions, and sort of consciously aligning to help entrain to those emotions, and how the world can sometimes entrain us to the emotions we experience, and how it's really important to have ownership in one's own emotions. I think sort of over the past few years, there have been many incidences in the world where people have been feeling powerless, where sort of world events take place, whether they be political, whether they be in terms of the pandemic, in terms of war, where we look out into the world and just feel completely powerless and unable to affect change in the world, and don't know what to really do. And the emotions that we experience in those moments can be very difficult, very challenging. But when you take ownership of those emotions, you are empowering yourself, because emotion is about movement. It's about moving you from one place to another, away from things, towards things. And those emotions are key to the actions that you will take. And I think that's so important, not only to have ownership of the emotions that you're feeling, and to find ways to enable those emotions to motivate you to certain actions, but also the conscious and proactive alignment with emotions of, this is where I want to be, and this is the emotion that I want to have in order to affect change in the world, and to feel that I am being a part of that change and that transformation that needs to happen.
This is also very VM stuff too.
Yes, oh, absolutely, yeah. Yes, yeah.
It seems like we were just talking about internal polarity, creating an external polarity to entrain others, and plexes and the I state and the E state and the V state. It's all related. It's all interconnected, just like we are.
Anke, a little birdie tells me that you have been working away on the translation of the Little Book of Celtic Reiki Wisdom, and I'm fascinated to know more about your experiences with the essences, but also because I know you love language and sort of have a long history with different languages and the study of language. It would be great to have your insight in the not only the translation process, but also how language and communication is so important in terms of Celtic Reiki and the essences.
I've been loving the process of the translation. It's a bit like the realms. Every time that you read the description of an essence, you don't really read it, but it does something with you. So it shifts something, or it changes you. It affects you. So I've been. I remember when starting with the first three essence to translate Elim and the silver fish, and then it's like it brings clarity, and I also needed that, because it's a whole process translating. Also, it's called the Little Book of Celtic Reiki Wisdom, so don't let those words fool you. It's very big in knowledge and also very big in range, because those essences really speak to you. And it's not only about seeing a text in English and then translate it, but it was also finding the letting everything, letting the essence go deep inside. And then also I've been working with where does the sound, so there's a sort of sound that because the trees don't really do trees talk. I get those questions. People ask me, do trees talk? And I say, well, it's not like you and me talking with those words. It's more like a sort of vibration. And I also wanted that vibration to go through the language, so people could feel the essence. And then it helped to see, like, okay, where does this word or this wisdom come from? And then it's been seeing all these different kinds of languages. So I've got the French and the German and the Latin, and you see, like, okay, how does this tree called in all these different languages, and where does the sound come from? And a very beautiful thing that I have discovered. So there is a sort of you have in the Eastern philosophy, you have the sound of creation, the Om, and our word for tree in Dutch is boom. So it's boom. So it's like, oh, that's so it's like there was one thing that I discovered, and I saw such a you cannot see that there's a similarity between that. So it's like, oh wow. And in some creation stories, everything is created from the trees, or the trees created the world. And by working with the essences and the sounds, not only seeing the lyrics, seeing what the message of a tree is in our language, but really working with the sounds and the vibrations. you will discover many of those similarities between Eastern, Western philosophies when working with the essences or reading things. You might feel something in your body, like, ooh, it gets warmer in my legs, or feel my head spinning. And that's also the trees talking to you. And I experienced that while translating. It was, you have something like, ooh, okay, I need to hold on for a moment, and and what does this tree has to tell me? So it's not only for the people that will read the book, it will be a sort of exploration and see what will this tree tell me, but also for me, sometimes it was like, oh wow, I need to stop and just listen, like, what does this tree want to say to me, and then go back translating. I've been very deep in like where do the vowels come from, and the ogham and the trees.
I love that, Anke. I just think it was always very important when sort of working with the ogham and the different staves of the ogham to imbue those with the experience of Celtic Reiki, because they come with their own ambient experience and they are imbued with their own power from the history that they have. And I wanted to ensure that they were sort of in a Celtic Reiki context, were imbued with the experience of Celtic Reiki. Obviously, imbuing those pages so that when people read each essence, they get a sense of that essence imbued in some way through not necessarily the text, but just the experience of reading. And so it's very important that when the book is translated into a different language, it's not just the spoken and written language that is changed, but the imbuing of that experience. And through the translation process that you went through, it's so wonderful how each of those essences is imbued within the pages of that book. Is extraordinary, because that was you taking your experience and knowledge of the realms and the woodland realm in particular, and pouring that into the translation process, so that there is a translation of energetic experience going on as well as the written language.
Very excited and very happy that it will be going into the world, and I will hope it will touch a lot of hearts, and so people will love trees even more, and will go on planting a lot of trees, loving trees, and also learning to love their self a bit more.
Beautiful.
It's wonderful. And I'm not going to attempt saying it in Dutch, but if you would do the honor, the name of the book is
Het kleine boek der Celtic Reiki wijsheid.
Wonderful.
Now do it in Flemish.
Okay. Het kleine boek der Celtic Reiki wijsheid.
I love it.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
And if you do it in like Limburg, so it's like dialect, hè? Het kleine boek der Celtic Reiki wijsheid.
I love it. The first time she did the comparison for me, I was like, oh my goodness, it's just musical.
And talking of music, Anke, you have been working with the Celtic Reiki Seership for a while. What is the experience of bringing your creativity to a Celtic Reiki context? And what does that mean to you in terms of your creativity?
For me, the artwork is actually an expression of experience, something that you experience, and then give an expression to. And my artwork usually it's trees or leaves of trees, because it says so much, and there's so much depth into it if you know where the leaves stand for, or where what the tree essence is. And for me, connecting to the seer of Celtic Reiki. It opens so many doors. I've always been very creative, but also the seer is it's about artwork, not only for yourself, but for sharing it, and that it will have a sort of effect on the world or on the future. And for me, that always has been a bit difficult, because I've created art in the past, but always for myself. So I've painted something, and then I put it in a map and close it, and sometimes look at it, and that's my art. Never did sort of exhibition or showed it to the world, because it was very private. It was sort of very deep emotion, and it's like, I feel a bit exposed or something. But with working with the seer, it changed a bit, and because art can also touch people and move things, and I think it's about living through an emotion, and then at the moment that there's a transformation or a shift, or you feel like, oh, it's healing, I try to hold on to those moments and create from there. So it's another starting point of creating art, and that's a very powerful moment to pick. And so anchoring that in art, it can be a sort of maybe portal, or to help others to go to that starting point, to inspire them to heal. So the work here behind me, it's after having a very beautiful experience at the Azure Pool in the Realms, and I anchored it in a piece of art, and it's in my therapy room. And it helps me when I need to connect with that type of experience. I look at it, and I know it will have a positive effect on the treatment. And so I've got a lot of hidden or not so hidden pieces of art that help me to remember to focus on certain experiences. And you can channel it or open the portal when it's needed. It's another way of experiencing art, and for me it's shifted a lot from hiding it and showing it.
Absolutely wonderful. You know, the seership runs parallel to everything within Celtic Reiki, within one therapy. You know, it's not a standalone. It definitely runs parallel. So it can be applied to all of your discoveries in a way that acts as tools for yourself, but also to others. Again, working with internal polarity, creating an external polarity that people will be attracted to. But your artwork is amazing.
I'm so grateful for your time today and for joining us here in the tavern. And it's so lovely to see you after so long.
And it was really fun and good to see you after all this time. And it's wonderful. And good to see you again, Linda. It's been so long, almost a week. Barely managed it.
Oh, it was so lovely to see Anke.
Yes, it always is. I enjoy her visits immensely.
The way Anke approaches her therapy and the way that she interacts with other people, treats other people in the world is just such a magical experience.
It is.
She has a way
very
of
well-rounded.
absolutely
Very well-rounded.
Yeah, and she has a way of just really honing in on what's needed by somebody. You know, where they're at, be it psychologically or emotionally or
Right.
just in their holistic space, she has that way of sort of just cutting through and going straight to the
She
important
is
thing.
very disruptive in the most gentlest of
She
ways.
is absolutely. It's like a fluff apocalypse.
I love her.
The end of the world, but so cute. I just want to put it on my cheek. Wonderful.
That's great.
We've had a wonderful epic adventure through the woodland realm and twisted vine, and
Yes.
it's just been absolutely wonderful speaking to you today.
It's been wonderful, and that was really just one little spot within the realms.
Absolutely.
There's so much more to experience, and they complement each other and interrelate so well. I would just wish everyone to be able to enjoy it.
Absolutely, yeah. I really love it when we meet in the taverns and we start speaking around a particular area of the realms and have a particular sort of focus, and then suddenly we're just marching off into some weird tangent because there's just so much to experience.
Absolutely.
That one little aspect will trigger all of these threads that are associated with it, and you can pull any one of those and it will just take you off in a completely different direction. I love that.
Yes, absolutely.
You never know where you're going to end up.
You never know.
Many a time I've been found in a ditch in the realms. Whether that's to do with all these different threads or the tipple I've been drinking on that day, who can say?
It's got to be that mushroom tipple, I'm telling you.
I haven't had the mushroom tipple for quite a while. I'm very disappointed in myself.
Because it's long lasting.
Yes. Yeah. I don't need mushroom tipples to be completely and utterly surreal.
It's a wonderful thing.
Fantastic. Well, it's been lovely here in the tavern with you today, Linda.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we will be back together very, very soon.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. This is a regular.
Yes. A very regular. It's the mushroom tipples that do it. That is a nightmare when I'm wearing my onesie.
Really oversharing. Oversharing. I have quite an imagination. I don't need that visual. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. So I'm going to head off into the realms.
I am as well.
Hopefully won't be found in a ditch anytime soon.
No ditches and no puddles and no, Watch where you step.
I shall certainly be doing that. Lovely to see you, Linda. And thank you everyone for joining us here in the tavern today. As always, it's really lovely to know that you're here with us.
Absolutely.
Exploring these weird and wonderful aspects of the realms.
It wouldn't be as much fun without you all.
Absolutely. I know. Wonderful. So until next time that we meet here.
Next time.
Yes. Be enchanted.
You've been listening to the It's Reiki But Not As You Know It podcast, hosted by Martyn Pentecost, originator of One Therapy, and Linda Hadzinski, guide and companion to the One Therapy community. Find out more and join in the conversation at onetherapy.com. one-therapy.com. It's Reiki, but not as you know it.